Welcome to Melody Roots Podcast Radio. I'm Livia. Today we have a singer-songwriter to sing you some soul and blues. Originally from Iowa, he has just released his 22nd album called Rest Heavy. So make sure you grab your PC, your Mac, or your smartphone, and we will be right back.
Live your life.
First of all, I just want to say welcome, Chad, to Melody Roots. And it sounds like you are doing so well for yourself. In August of 2018, you have just recorded and released your 22nd album, and that's called Rest Heavy. What did you do with this album that's so different from all of the others that you've recorded?
Thank you for having me. The Rest Heavy album, we approached it a little differently than normal because we were going into Sun Studio in Memphis, and that studio's meant for live recording, and usually with a band in a studio, you kind of do separate tracks. You try and separate and isolate each instrument separately, but this was more of a live vibe, so we wanted to capture that room sound that Elvis and Johnny Cash and all those greats captured. And I think Pless Hampton, the sound engineer, really captured that for us. And you can feel the energy and the excitement in the room, I think, in the recordings. So that's how we've approached that album a little differently than my past albums.
Chad, you've shared the stage with a number of accomplished singers and writers. Is there one that stands out the most?
Yes, throughout the years, I've kind of had the privilege and honor to be able to share the stage or open for some big artists. I think the largest audience I've ever played for was opening for Eric Church in my hometown of Guthrie Center, Iowa. There was like 20,000 people there, and that one really stood out as far as the crowd size and just the hype and the energy. But I think one of the artists that really stands out, I would say, would be Odetta. She's this folk icon and influenced great artists like Bob Dylan and just all these. She was a great folk singer, but soul singer as well. And I just think, her energy was almost like just another otherworldly is what I would describe it. She was so kind and so nice, and we sat backstage a little bit before the show, and I only sang a short set, but it was at the Kent State Folk Festival, and she was so sweet and so kind, and I was really moved by that. And then she went out there and just rocked the stage. So that one stands out in my mind.
You mentioned you have your own studio at home. When it comes to recording, do you prefer your home studio, or is there any other places you record? What is the differences between the home and away from home?
That's a great question. I have a home studio, and I've done lots of self-produced albums. I've probably produced, a good dozen albums by myself. But there's something creative about that. I love having my own space and my own time, and I can kind of work on things, and it's like tinkering, in a woodshed or something. But I can explore more creative things without anybody looking over my shoulder. I do love that process. Then there's nothing like going into a studio that's set up with all the bells and whistles. I recorded in Nashville, as well as the new album that was recorded at Sun Studio. And I've recorded with friends in their studios. And there's something about having a producer, having somebody that's kind of at the helm that will take you in a new direction. And I love that process too. So I can't really say I prefer one over the other. They're just different ways to approach the songs. And so sometimes I'll take older songs that I produced years ago, and I'll say, what can I do with a new, vision, somebody else's input, and also different players. And so I like that element to it as well. So it's a fun process. I love recording music.
And where are the roots from your music? Where do they begin? Were you a vocalist? Were you a guitar player? Were you both? Was your family involved in music? Where did that start for you to get where you are today? And what advice do you have to give for beginning artists that are aspiring their music journey?
Yeah, I grew up, with no one in particular playing any instruments, but my mom was a huge encourager of the arts in our family, and she got us into violin lessons early on as kids. We moved to a different town that didn't have that program, but I was always singing, and I was in theater. And my grandfather was a professor of history, but he also was in the university's theater programming and stuff. He was always acting and singing. He had a great tenor voice, so I kind of looked up to that. I would say that just that exploration, and I'm a huge fan of songwriters. My mom taught writing, and she always encouraged me to write, and so the writing element was always there in the music. So I was really taken by Bob Dylan and James Taylor and people that were into the lyrics just as much as the melody. And I think that was where I really began my career, was when I was in college and I picked up a guitar. I finally found a way to put my poetry into music. And I would say that if anybody's out there trying to start out, it's really is trying to find your own voice is the key. And you can find that in many arts. You can carry it over from your art or writing poetry into music, and it's coming from the same source in my mind. I feel like it's all the same thing. I'm just reshaping it in different ways. And I would say being authentic is the key to being a good writer and a good songwriter, and finding your own voice. There's so much music being made right now, but everyone's trying to sound like certain people. And I'd say there's something key to the voices that we hear out there that really stand out there because they're being authentic. And so that's a hard path to go down, but it's in the end, it's much more rewarding to know yourself and know what your music is yours. And it can be influenced by many different styles, but to know that you're kind of making your own waves is a key to being an independent artist.
Once again, everyone, Chad Elliott, thank you so much for being here with us today. He released his 22nd album in August of 2018. It is called Rest Heavy. Make sure you guys check that out. Chad, where can they actually listen or buy your album?
Thank you. Thanks for sharing my music to all your listeners. My links basically are all right there on my website, which is chadelliott.net. That's .net, because the .com was already taken. So you can get all those links. I've got Pandora and Spotify and Apple Music and all of those things right there on the website. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chad, once again. Everyone, this is Chad Elliott, singer-songwriter from Iowa. We're going to take a listen to his music right now. Here it is, the title track to his newest album, Rest Heavy.
I rest heavy every night ever since you came into my life. I was so lost before that day. Now with you I know the way. not meant to be. I know some things just leave you blue. Baby, please tell this to me. Oh, how can we live apart when my heart stays with you? I rest heavy every night ever since you came to my life. I was so lost before that day. Now with you, I know the way. Oh, now with you, I know the way.
That was Chad Elliott with this title track to his new album, Rest Heavy. And if you want to check out more of Chad Elliott's music, make sure you check him out at chadelliott.net. And thank you again so much, Chad, for being with us. And to all of my listeners, thanks for listening and have a good day. Thanks for listening to Melody Roots Podcast Radio. My name is Livia. Here at Melody Roots, we're coming from the thought, the beginning, to the pursuit and the chase of a dream. Once a thought is spoken, sung, or sketched on paper, you can bring it to life. Here at Melody Roots, we want to do just that. Just by supporting your local artists and musicians, you are helping bring art and music to life.